How genotype influences emotional resilience and mental fortitude. Explore how your genotype affects emotional resilience and how practical stress management can build lasting emotional strength and psychological resilience. How your genotype plays a role in emotional resilience. Hey, I wanted to chat with you about something pretty fascinating I've been reading up on lately: how our genotype actually impacts emotional resilience. That whole ability to bounce back from tough times and stress? It turns out it's not just about mindset or environment, there's a bit of biology mixed in too. So imagine this: resilience isn't just something you build by sheer willpower or through practiced coping strategies. Our genetic makeup plays a subtle but important role in how well we manage stress and cultivate mental fortitude. It's kind of like the foundation of a house. Some foundations are naturally sturdier, making the house more resistant to storms. At the core of this, there are certain genes, basically instructions inside our DNA, that influence how our brain handles emotional challenges. For example, genes involved with neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine are heavily tied to how we process emotions. Variations in these genes can affect psychological resilience by influencing mood regulation, emotional intelligence, and even how we respond to stressful situations. What's really interesting is that this doesn't mean you're destined to be emotionally fragile or tough just because of your genes. It's more like your genotype creates a set of potentials. How you use those potentials depends a lot on your environment, your learned coping strategies, and your stress management techniques. Think of it as having different tools in the toolbox. Here's an example. Some people might have a genetic predisposition making them more sensitive to stress. They might feel emotional stings more intensely, but that could also drive them to develop stronger emotional strength over time, honing skills like emotional intelligence to navigate their feelings better. Others might be genetically wired to handle stress with less visible difficulty, but might not always develop the same depth of psychological resilience because the challenge wasn't as great to begin with. It's really the interaction between your genes and your experiences that shapes emotional resilience. That's why stress management techniques and being intentional about how you respond to emotional challenges are so key. Things like mindfulness, therapy, or even just building a supportive social circle enhance your mental fortitude regardless of your genetic baseline. Speaking of emotional influence, there's this book I've been meaning to mention: Ripple Effects: Transforming Tiny Traumas. It delves into how small emotional injuries, often overlooked, can accumulate and how we can turn those experiences into sources of strength. The author's approach connects really well with this idea that even if your genotype leans one way, your psychological resilience can be actively shaped through awareness and intentional strategies. If you're curious to learn more about this perspective, I definitely recommend checking it out. You can purchase the book now. It's a great addition if you want practical insights on building emotional strength in a world full of tiny, everyday traumas. Overall, it's a pretty empowering realization. Your genes set the stage, but the story is still yours to write. Taking charge of your coping strategies, practicing stress management, and developing emotional intelligence are practical ways anyone can boost their psychological resilience. And in a world that's increasingly demanding on our mental health, that emotional strength makes a huge difference. So, next time you feel overwhelmed or like the emotional weight is just too much, remember it's okay to acknowledge that some of this response is wired in your genes, but it's equally important to cultivate the skills that let you stand strong. It's a dynamic balance, and knowing that can help remove some of the self blame or frustration people often feel when they face emotional setbacks. Thanks for letting me share this with you. If emotional resilience and stress management interest you at all, Especially from a science meets practical angle, check out Ripple Effects Transforming Tiny Traumas today. You won't regret it.